Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I am flying solo at the minute, but I will be joined momentarily by other chaps. But I thought I'm going to kick this thing off. We can get everything introduced. And then as the chaps arrive, we can welcome them in. On tonight's show, we're going to be covering the AFLW Cats beating the Doggies at a rain-soaked Mars Stadium down in Ballarat to keep a very, very, very faint flicker of their finals hopes alive and blossoming.
There'd be 1,000 blossoms bloom.
You know? And then we're going to duck over to Patreon in about half an hour. We will do extra stuff there for Patreon subscribers, further thoughts on the game, a look ahead to the last home and away game of the season against the Demons, some of what needs to happen there, what needs to go right for the Cats to squeak their way into a finals campaign. But before we get into any of that, got to say a quick Hoops Crew Media Network thank you to our Media Network sponsor, the wonderful people at Cyril Cook Florist. You can visit them at Shop 12, 11 Leather Street in Breakwater. You can give them a buzz on the phone on 035 222 222 or go on over to www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the voucher code GOCATS at checkout, and they will knock 20% off your next purchase. Voucher code GOCATS at checkout at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. 20% off your next purchase. And we thank them for their support of the Hoops Crew Media Network all through 2025. And now I am going to be joined. It's going to go from one chap to two chaps as the man himself, Mr. Johnny Larkin, jumps in to the virtual studio. Johnny, how are you? You're rescuing me here.
Rescuing you. Made it eventually. Made it after a few things happening today. Life getting in the way. It's good to be here. Good to talk a win.
Does that.
Be good to chat a win.
Yeah, it's something this will be only the fifth time in the AFLW season this year that we've actually been able to talk about a winning game for the Cats. So you're right, and you got to make the most of it. Not every season. I guess as Cats fans, we get a bit fucking spoiled with how the men's team has been the last few years. That every year you're just going to win 75% of your games and go on a deep finals run, but the W are forging their own identity. They did a great job on the weekend, Johnny. When we go to Patreon, I'm going to get your thoughts on the F1 race that went down in Mexico. I'm assuming you watched it live, did you?
Absolutely did. Watched it live. So
right, we'll talk all about that on Patreon.
I watched it live.
Yeah, because I know that Morris is hanging out. Well, that's the beauty of you being a sicko, John. You can feed every detail, to the other people who might not have time to be as much of a sicko as you are. All right, let's jump into the footy though, Johnny, because there's a lot to get to over the next 25 minutes here on the public show, and that is that the Geelong Cats did what they needed to do to keep, it's the faintest glimmer of a spark of a chance, really. Geelong have a mammoth task ahead of them next week, and they've got to have other results very much go their way. But in terms of knocking down the dominoes left to knock down, the Cats did what they could. It started in offensively sloshy conditions. We talked about it on the Chaps private chat, Johnny, about just the condition of the ground, and it was in no way any of us felt anything of like, oh, the ground staff should have done this or that. At the end of the day, the weather's the weather, the drainage is the drainage. It's not like it's a main stage ground out there in Ballarat. It's a secondary, sort of professional level footy field. So no qualms about the fact that it was sloshy. But I think all three of us felt somewhat as though the game would not have gone ahead if it was a men's fixture. And I pretty firmly stand by that. I understand that games in the men's comp do get played in wet conditions, but the grounds tend to drain a lot quicker than that. So anyway, that's just an aside. The Cats played the conditions perfectly early. They established an early 3-goal lead in the first quarter for once, Johnny. The accuracy was on point in the opening term, and the Cats were out to an 18-0 lead early. The Doggies, they shot back. They had 3 scoring shots of their own to end the first quarter. It was 2 behinds, and then a goal to Riley Wilcox to go in 8-18 down. Geelong pushed that out to a 25-10 lead at halftime with a goal to Kate Sermon, being Geelong's 4th. And after that, really, like the game, it wasn't a pretty watch. And we'll get to it in your opening thoughts, John. This was not a game that you would say, hey, come and check out the AFLW for the first time. It was sloshy and sloppy, and not just in terms of the ground conditions, but the Cats had the best of it for much of it. The third quarter, the first score there came after 11 minutes. Chantal Mason kicking a goal. 3 games in a row now for Chantal Mason after she couldn't find the big sticks to start her career. She now has goals. I think she's got 5 goals in her last 3 games or something like that.
Something like that.
To really be, showing some good development there. Dogs hit back just before 3-quarter time. Emma McDonald, who was very good, I thought, for the Western Bulldogs, pulled the margin back to 15 points. And the last quarter, John, was almost an absolute worst-case nightmare scenario for the Cats. Had it been better weather, had the Dogs kicked straight, it was the Dogs who had pretty much all the running of the final term. They kicked behinds to Emma McDonald, 2 rushed, 3 rushed, kicked a goal to Jessica Fitzgerald with time enough left to have stolen this game. Thankfully, the last 5 or 6 minutes, Geelong pulled stuff together, and it was Aisling Maloney with a bit of special sort of magic stuff, soccering the ball off the toe of her boot from an angle underneath the hands of a sprawling Doggies defender to lock the game away for the Cats. They avoid a scare, Johnny. Geelong win 6-1, 37 to 3-8, 26. The Dogs had gettable shots. They couldn't take them. Geelong, to their credit, made theirs. But what were your takeaways here from a game and a win for the Cats that keeps them, somewhat alive this season?
Yeah, it's a pretty stretchy somewhat, isn't it, though? Like the gymnastics that's going to have to happen for the Cats to make finals is definitely not in our favour in terms of what needs to happen. That'd be fantastic if it does, but it's going to be extremely difficult because we're coming up against Melbourne, who where are they? They're like they're fighting for a top 4 position going up into the last game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not going to be easy. And this game, it was a good win. It was good to have a win in pretty terrible conditions. Like the half of the ground was just drenched in water. Like it's like basically swimming. But it was a good win. But I still think the way we played, if we make finals, is if we play like we did against the Bulldogs, we're not going to win a final. It's pretty simple as that in my books. Is if we make finals, be good, but I can't see this team getting much further into finals because I don't know. It's just all the issues are still there. Like all the skill issues, the moving up forward issues. When it works, but there was still so many times when the Cats were going forward, it was just a long kick from the defensive 50 straight to a Bulldogs player. Like, there wasn't much thought in it. It was just like, get on the boot, get it down our end, and something might happen. And so if this was a dry weather game, I reckon the Bulldogs would have probably got away with the victory. But they were definitely cleaner than us, definitely a bit more smarter with their use of the ball, use of their hands, they were quicker. So yeah, those 3 goals at the start won it for us. So yeah, it's a win, but in my books, it's not as a convincing win as some other fans may think. I think there's still a lot of underlying issues that get paved over after a win, but I think this time it hasn't paved over any of the issues for me. Like, yeah, the team's still talented, but there's still so much that they need to work on to be able to get back to the prelim finals that we had a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's not as sunshine and happiness and smiles as we want it to be, unfortunately. There's still a lot of shit going on around that needs to be sorted out, and until that's happened, it's going to be a tough ride. But yeah, like, there was some really good individual performances, obviously, some great team moments as well, but I still feel those moments of great teamwork, the moments of those individual brilliances are still too far spaced. And when you see other teams like the Bulldogs, I feel like they had more of those moments of moving a ball that looked better than what the Cats were able to do.
Yeah, and there's some things that stand out in terms of the system, the reliability of system. The Dogs took 7 marks inside 50 to our 1. So they actually had a higher amount of marks inside their forward 50 than their season average on a day where it should have been nearly impossible to take them. They had 7, we had 1. That to me speaks to that control ability, the ability to possess and move the football. It doesn't bear out in terms of the possession numbers, but that's here nor there for me. It's quite even, but sometimes the stats can lie. They can't lie, but you've got to apply some context to it. And I think you're right. Looking at these two teams, Geelong's winning goal really summed it up for me. Was it went to the middle, the game's 5 points. Who wins the ball out? Prasparkas, who gets it inside the attacking half, and it's Prasparkas again who hacks the kick inside 50, and it's Aisling Maloney who makes something special of it. So, big piece key players stood up when you needed them to. But the way the Dogs assumed basically total control of that game in the fourth quarter was troubling. And yeah, it's a tough one because you don't want people to think you're being joyless about a win. But the way I'd sum it up, Johnny, is like you said, it was a good win. I think it's good to win. I don't know that this was a good win. Do you know what I mean? It's good to win. It's nice to win. It feels better than losing. But like, I look at this game and think like, I don't know that there's some things that I think, some development things that I liked, and it's more on an individual level in terms of players. I would really like to talk a little bit about like Emma Kilpatrick, who's already been a topic of conversation on the pod. I'd love to talk about Chantel Mason. I think that Bridie O'Rourke probably showed flashes of her being her best game. Like, I think in the fullness of time, or when we look at the season in context, as the seasons roll by, we'll maybe look back and take some real positives. But this game was a slog. It was a slog of a watch. And as you said, that like, if we are to sneak into finals, like, I don't think we'll get very far, because I look at this game and go, things that we lost, like we lost the clearance battle 22-16. And and that to me is sort of bewildering given the midfield talent in both of these teams. Like, there was it Izzy Pritchard, I think her name is, who's one of the Dogs. I'm sure they were saying that she was one of the Dogs' key mids.
Mm.
And my apologies if I've got that wrong. I haven't watched a lot of the Bulldogs AFLW team. I'll be upfront about that. But I just looked at the midfield lineup and thought, man, pretty crazy. Like, I think Georgie Prasparkas had 4 clearances in the first quarter and then had ended up with 6 for the game. Yeah, I want to talk about the positives of the game in and of itself and the bright spots, but you've got to think about it in the context of the whole season. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. The issues that we've been talking about are still there. The bright spots for me is we finally did away with the insanity of playing Kate Kenny, sort of in the back half, and Rachel
Yep.
Kearns. We
Yeah.
we took her back down to defense, and both of them look back to what they do best, like that goal from Kate Kenny and the goal
that
assist
was
she had as well.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I don't know
absolutely
how many,
agree there.
Johnny, I don't know how many credits we should give a coaching staff for doing the absolutely bleeding obvious. Like,
Yeah,
at the end of the
yeah,
day, what was it? Yeah.
yeah, it's tough because they're trying to change things up, but if you're going to try things up, try them for a quarter and see how it goes. If it doesn't work, change it back. Don't do it for 2 matches in a row because Monty Kearns looked so much better in defence. She was so much better in defence rather than attack. She knew what she was doing. She knew her role. She knew what needed to be done, and she was great. She was fantastic. She did everything that you'd expect a defender. She had the experience, the knowledge, and the idea of what the Cats needed to have done at certain points in the game. Same as Kate Kenny. Like, she looked back to her deadly normal self that was seen in previous weeks before she was moved defensively. So it's weird that those movements happen and then they stick with it. It's like they're going, oh, we got to stick with this because I've got to prove this right. I've got to prove that this works when all the evidence points it's not working. Just go back to how it was because yeah, there's no point in trying new things when the season's on the line. Like, yeah, we should have had Kearns back in defence last week and Kate Kenny in the midfield forward line last week, and we could have had a better chance. But yeah, you can't really give coaching staff too much credit for, as you said, doing the bleeding obvious. Because
Well, it's sort of like
yeah.
cleaning up a mess that you made.
Mm.
As far as the
Maybe
Kearns thing, like, I'm here or there. Like, the Kate Kenny thing was really one game, and I
yeah,
think it was the wrong move. But the Kearns thing has been happening since we lost to Hawthorn, where they were like, "Well, we've got to move her forward," and I just think that I just think that was a blatantly incorrect decision to take her from a place where she was fine. She was finally had found her home on the footy field, and then you put her back, and she played brilliantly.
I think they need to.
Maybe we can. Oh, you go, John.
I was just going to say they need to see what the men's are doing in their how they set up the team, and not saying do the same thing, but go why the men's team so successful is because everyone's got their role, everyone's playing to their strengths. And I think this is what made this AFLW team so good when we were really good was like everyone was playing where they were the strongest. And when we've won, we've had players in their best position. So I think there's nothing wrong with playing people in the position that they play the best. That's where you should play them. And if you want to switch things around or try and get other skills into these players, do it in the off season, do it in preseason games. I know it's tough for the AFLW because they don't really have an off season or many preseason games to actually try, and many games to try in during the season. Like if the season was everyone played each other once, then you'd be able to try out these new things. But because it's such a condensed season, any minor change turns into a major change because it can have huge ramifications. So I think it really matters in AFLW that you have your players playing where they're best suited, because otherwise you're just playing catch up and you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, no, totally agree, and I think that you know it's about, as you said, players playing roles that they're comfortable with, and like I just don't understand what we ever lacked. Like I really don't understand the Rachel Kearns move, because I know she had a really challenging matchup against Anya McDonough against Hawthorn. Like, yeah, totally clear as day. I'm sure she would admit the same. It was going, that was not my best night, but she was conceding height to Anya McDonough, and McDonough is just as athletic as Kearns is. So it was a rough matchup to try and find a fit for. But I don't understand why the solution there to me is to back the player in down the back line. And I don't understand what they thought we were lacking up forward to move her there. If that was the move, saying, well, it's not really about what Kearns is doing down back, it's more that we need something up forward. I don't know. I think there's been a lot of misdiagnosis this year, Johnny, about what the problems are. And I don't know that I buy that it's positional in terms of, what players have done in their preferred position. It's really come down to some execution stuff at crucial times, like not taking chances. And, putting Rachel Kearns in the forward line doesn't make Geelong take their chances better when they've had times, where they've had their foot on the throat of other teams. Like, I do think sometimes it's, I think there's been as I said, a bit of a misdiagnosis sometimes of what the issue at hand has been. But, and a lot of it to me has come down to skill execution more than anything. I think if you look up at those teams that are well above us, Johnny, basically from position 6 on the ladder up, they're already out of reach of us with one game to play. Those teams, when we've played them, it's been marked by their skill, their ability to hit targets, to mark the ball cleanly, to link up effectively as a team, to hunt the ball in packs and then spread with a lot of speed and intelligence away from the contest. Like, that's just some stuff we've really lacked this year. We have looked a step behind, as we've said, the development of the game as it stands in 2025. But I will say this, Johnny, and I want to end before we do our votes and stuff, I do want to end about specifically this game, and we can talk more broad picture on Patreon, but we did do some things right to set ourselves up for this win. The first quarter, I think, actually, obviously our best in terms of the score we put on, like 3 straight goals. So the execution up forward was there. But to me, we seem to play our most sharp and instinctive footy in that quarter, where things were happening at speed. They were being executed cleanly at speed. Players were just not second guessing themselves. They were seeing the player, hitting the player with a handball. I didn't feel like there was a lot of overthinking or second guessing. Yeah. Does that sort of match up for you, Johnny? Like there was promise in that first quarter?
Yeah, absolutely. It seemed a lot more free flowing. And as you said, just going with that first option, going with what looked good and going for it. And you got to do that in the wetter weather. So yeah, it worked well. And, it was sort of like that. It had that feeling of many other games that we've played in, that we get it to really good start. We get it jump on the oppositions. And then they slowly start working their way back in. And that's what the Bulldogs did. And they started flicking it around a lot quicker. And then I feel like once the opposition starts getting to play their way, we go back to that shell of going, oh, right, it's sort of, what do we do now? Oh, we just kick it long, get it out of there, see what happens. But I think that first quarter is shows what this team can do and how quickly they can get goals on the board and put teams under pressure. So if we can find that for two to three quarters, that could be a game done and dusted within the 2 quarters and wouldn't be in these positions. But for some reason, when the opposition starts pressuring us, it just seems to resort back to old old habits, bad habits. But yeah, I still do believe that this team has the skilled capability to be better than what they are at the moment, because they wouldn't be happy with how they're playing. Like, they would still be going, this is not the way we want to go about winning games. Like, yeah, they'll be happy with the win, but I also think, yeah, they'll be going, we need to play better if we want to keep playing into the finals. But that first quarter was a definite positive step in the right direction. Like 3 goals within 5 minutes and 3 really good goals. Like, they weren't just flukish goals. They were skillful, well thought out, well designed goals. And it's a team that can do this on a regular basis. We just got to find it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we'd played 3 quarters like that, like we would come away feeling a lot different about this game. This to me really did feel like 2 teams that aren't going to be playing finals, that are a step or a half step off where those teams above them are. And so it all sort of checked out. It all made a lot of sense. There was a moment that I thought was interesting where Kate Darby, the commentary team actually said it was Geelong had the ball. It was Darby who had it. I think she'd just taken a really great intercepting mark, or maybe it wasn't an intercept mark. Whatever the case was, it was a really good pack mark. This is how I remember it anyway. And she was sort of just near the center square on the defensive side of it. And she had Rachel Kearns, who made a run to spread out to her right. She had Meg Mack, I think, maybe Becky Webster positioned out to her left in a line. So you sort of had 4 players setting up, and the commentator said, oh, you can see the experienced Geelong players setting up the wall. And Kearns is calling for it out on the near wing. And Darby sort of ignores her and kicks down the line to a contest that just sort of punched to the ground and a contest forms. And this was at a point where I really thought, I think some of the teams above us take that outlet kick to the left or the right and force the other team to come up to you to defend that space, to press up. And then maybe you can create some numbers advantages that are favorable to you down the line off a second or a third kick. I think that's a big difference between how we use the ball and how other teams who are being successful are using the ball. There's a lot more of a willingness to go short and to move the ball around short. And that changes angles. That makes you harder to defend. It makes you less predictable. Yeah. I think that's if I think about all those teams that we've come up against and been in the game, but then ultimately lost, the North Melbourne game, the Hawthorn game, the Carlton game, it's that ability to hit short kicks at speed and make your opponent struggle to defend you. So I think at the moment we're a little bit sort of the game plan at times with how we move the ball feels a little bit naive at times. So anyway, Johnny, let's rattle through some votes here to end the public show. We'll talk about why these players got our votes in the Patreon part of the show. I went 1 vote to Kate Kenny. I went 2 votes to Georgie Prasparkas. And I gave the best on ground to Nina Morrison. Where did you go, Johnny?
I went 1 vote Georgie, not Georgie, sorry. 1 vote Claudia Gunjaka, giving 2 votes to Georgie Prasparkas. And I'm giving my 3 votes to Meg McDonald.
Oh, nice. I like it. Game 75.
Game 75.
Against her former club, too.
Yeah, and had some incredibly crucial moments throughout this game. Like crucial marks, a punch, to get through from behind to set up our next goal. Just some really high and some good kicks outside 50. Get it leading in a defence, and I thought it was a really easily her best game of the year, and really proved that she's still an extremely valuable asset to this team and good leadership as well. And I was just really enjoyed watching her play the game, and just stood out to me.
Yeah, I really, the commentators made point of it at one point. There was a camera angle where she was shouting to somebody to get in a position that she wanted them, you got to move here, you got to move here, whatever. And they talked about, it's handy to have an extra coach on the field. And I did think, we felt at times that, for whatever reason, there may have been a bit of exposure on, being caught in terms of a bit of leg speed on transition defensively at the start of the year for Meg Mack. I don't think that was as much of an issue, on the weekend in the rain. And what it did make me think of was, gosh, it'd be nice to have her out there coaching up these young defenders week in, week out with Gregor, with Kilpatrick, those players who are playing for the first time down in that back line. Like, I think Megatron is such an amazing captain, and it would be really nice to think that she might be out here again against the D's, and just the experience the other players can draw off her is pretty phenomenal. And as you said, just a great individual game as well. All right, let's wrap up the public show and go over onto Patreon. We will talk further about the players who got votes and did other stuff good too. We'll talk about the game upcoming against Melbourne, and we're going to pick John's brain about the Mexico Grand Prix, because I'm sure he has many, many thoughts. None of them will be rampant conspiracy theories around the McLaren team,
Definitely
I'm sure.
not.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hit those subscribe buttons. Give us the 5-star reviews. And we'll catch you next time. Go Cats!
Go Cats!